Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dusty and this is the Shred Academy. Now that we've been sending it for a few weeks, our bikes probably need some love. And the first thing that usually needs love is the old headset. Sometimes we get some creaking as we're pulling, as we're pedaling, as we're hitting the front brake, maybe before a berm we can hear a crack, 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 crack. And it's so unnerving. So today we're gonna learn how to break down your headset, re-grease, and reassemble. It's super easy. We're gonna make this basically headsets for dummies because it really is 1, 2, 3, 3 screws and some paper towels and some grease. So without further ado, guys, let's get this sucker broken down. So we talk about the headset. We're talking about this whole assembly right here. Now it's going to be comprised of your steer tube of your fork going through what's called the head tube on your bike, and then we come up and we have some spacers, we have your stem, and we have another spacer. Your spacers are going to be up to you, and then we have your top cap. So let's explain how this comes apart. All right, we're gonna start to tear this thing apart. And we're gonna do this in a very simple way. Sometimes it's nice to have a table behind you so you can just put the pieces down in the order you take them off, especially with your spacers. I never remember, so I usually just go tops first, and then I'll put another layer for the bottom one. Now, the first thing that we're going to want to do is take off the top cap, and it's either going to be a 4, a 5, a T25, one of those sizes of Allen wrench or Torxes. Now, if you have a toolkit up top, your top cap bolt is going to be underneath of your crown here. You'd have to go underneath here. It'll unscrew. The bolt will fall out, right? And that'll be that. But us up top, and nothing's gonna fall out of the bike yet. We'll let you know when that's gonna happen. So we're gonna take this off. Right now we have top cap, spacer, actually 2 spacers, and I'm gonna go ahead just put this over on my desk all together so I know that they go back on top together. Now this is where it's gonna get a little tricky because your fork is now going to fall out, and if you can do this in a shop where you have a clean floor, great, because if it's your first time you're going to drop something, best not to drop it in the dirt. But I have, let me step through, I have this nice little tire stand, and I'm just going to put the front tire in that with the fork so it doesn't fall over side to side. So I'm going to set that guy there. Let me make sure that the frame is good. All right, now that you guys can see me, mine's a 5, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my hand underneath around from the front. I mean, you could do it like this, however you feel most comfortable. This isn't like, gotta do it my way, but this is the simplest for me. So I'm gonna hold part of my fork, and you don't need to take out the screws all the way. You'll know when it's loose. Put this in my pocket and then I'll lose it in 5 minutes. Now comes the part that's gonna scare everybody. It's everything's gonna start to fall apart. So first, what we'll do without letting it drop out, we wanna take the stem off. You're gonna have to wiggle it back and forth, right? And we're gonna lay that down. Ambient hose here, I'm missing a brake lever because I broke one and I put it on my downhill bike. Now I'm going to bring my tire stand in, right? And I can just set that guy in my tire stand. Oh, and that's what you don't want to happen really. Should have grabbed those first, but you know, stuff happens. So we'll go down and we'll pick all these up. There's only 2. Sometimes not everything goes to plan. And this just goes to show you that you can be doing this for 15 years and still drop things on the ground. All right, now that we've got that all taken apart, we're gonna pull everything out. You're gonna have this little spacer which actually expands into your bearing in there and seats it nice and easy. That's why there's that little slit in it. We'll set that on the table. Notice that I have my tools and the things that are coming out kind of in order. We're gonna take this one out. And sometimes you have to wiggle them. Now, if for some reason your bearings literally come apart, try not to let any of the bearings fall on the ground. Sometimes you can get these sealed bearings back together. I would recommend a new bearing if it does come apart. They just never go back together the way they're meant to originally. And then we've got one more, and it's going to be under here. Sometimes it ends up on the steer tube, and this is that steer tube I was talking about that goes through the head tube. Sometimes this bearing will go in there, but mine got stuck in there. I'm not sure if you could hear the grit and grime that I just pulled out of there, but it was definitely sandy. All right, so now we're gonna clean the sucker out. Now, I just use clean paper towels. If you have shop rags, great. I don't really use any, I don't spray any degreaser in there. You shouldn't really have to. You should be able to get it nice and clean. Usually 1 to 2 paper towels per top and bottom. So now these bearings, as I do this, I'll give you a quick rundown. These are called sealed cartridge bearings because it's basically a cartridge, right? This inner race and outer race will come apart, and there's bearings inside, and this little sleeve on top is what keeps all the dust and everything out of there. You can turn your bearings like this in your fingers, and if you feel a lot of grit in there, it's time to replace. Mine are still spinning nice and smooth. They look really clean. A nice clean bearing basically kind of looks like that. If you really wanted to, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there is a little slit on the inside. If you really wanted to try to pack fresh grease in there, you can just with your finger. And a little time consuming, but I know these are fresh bearings. Now, I kind of went from one to the other. You can be however meticulous as you'd like. I myself am a little more scatterbrained, but you know, we're all different. But I definitely get it done, so you can do it whichever way you'd like. Bottom one all cleaned out. All right, now that everything is clean, it's time to re-grease. You can use, I have a bottle of Park Tool here. You can use Muck Off. Just don't use like automotive grease. It's different. And I just like to put some on my finger. If you have an applicator, you can. And I just run it along the inside. I'll show you how much I put on there. Just give me a sec. And it's actually quite satisfying if, you know, you're kind of into this type of thing. And then I put a dollop on the bottom. It'd be your first time like working on your bike, which I kind of feel like it is if you're watching this video. Just make a mess. Just make sure you're not getting any grease on your rotors or anything like that. Otherwise, you'll be fine. This isn't like rocket science. It truly isn't. All right. I would suggest, you know, go ahead, throw your top bearing in there. It should just, now that I said that, you know, just fall in, right? Just put it in straight. Then you can take some of that excess grease that was there and go around the top, right? You're basically just trying to keep things from being dry. You don't need to have an excess amount of grease up there. If you do, you'll see it plummet out as you put it all together. Now I'm going to take this dollop, go around the crown race on the steer tube, I don't really need a whole bunch of grease over here. It's going to get there from on the inside here. So if you think you need to put a bunch of grease on, I mean, go ahead. I just find that, except for right here where everything kind of links together, you don't need grease everywhere. All right, now here comes the difficult part, because we only have 2 hands. So if you can, make sure that you can reach your stuff, super great. As well, one of the hardest parts is putting this handlebar back in, and making sure that your cables are oriented correctly. It can be a pain in the butt to just be, oh, I got it all back together, and then, so before you get the fork in there, make sure that you've got this guy all settled well. Now, if it's all tangled up, just, kind of rotate it until it's correct. You can even just test fit, right, without the fork in there. And I know this is correct. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to grab my table and move it a little closer. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is pick this guy up, bring this guy back underneath. All right, get it? And then I can just let it go there. I can get it out of my stand. I'm going to put my bearing on the steer tube. These bearings have directions, right? If you look at it, there is a angled part. That's going to go into the bike. The flat portion should always sit on top, for the top and bottom bearing. I'm sorry I didn't say that sooner, but we got there. So what I'll do is just let that guy go on there. I've already got grease underneath, so I'm going to pull out this, help guide that in there so I don't knock anything out. That's going to set in there. Now you can tell that this is going to still move around in there. That's where this spacer comes in. So you want to get that in there, and it'll set down in there, and then that sucker should sit just fine. Then you'll put your top cap back on, as I thought I grabbed it. This keeps all the dust out of inside. It's actually a dust shield top cap, a lot of names here. That keeps all the dust and dirt out of all that fresh grease we just put in there. Then you can put your spacers on. Make sure you got all your spacers. I only had 2. Then you go ahead and slide that on there. Then you can grab your last spacers. Okay, put them on there. Boom. And now our screw. Now, I didn't show you this before, but inside your steer tube, there is a bolt called a star nut, actually. It's not a bolt, it's a nut. And it gets hammered into your steer tube. And that's what this top bolt gets screwed into. And what this does is it squishes everything together. Okay, so this bolt is honestly the most important one. So what we're going to do is we're going to tighten that guy down until it's, pretty, not, but just till it's tight, right? You don't need to over tighten it. Then we're going to check to make sure it's tight. We're going to take our handlebars and move back and forth a little bit. Well, apparently my camera decided to film in time warp for this clip. So after I've tightened the top cap, I am going to align the handlebar with the front tire. And now we're going to tighten the 2 stem bolts. Your stem bolts will either be on the same side or opposite. You definitely want to alternate from top to bottom on either side. And if you have a torque wrench, I suggest using it. Most of these have a torque spec. You don't want to over torque it because you could strip the bolts out and then your headset is toast. So once you get your stem all torqued in there, you definitely want to make sure that everything is tight. So you want to spin the handlebars around, making sure that everything is free and it's not too tight where the handlebar doesn't spin. And now we're going to go test to make sure the headset is tight. Let's get out of this time warp business. The easiest way to test to see if your headset is tight is to basically find a solid mass, like a wall or a tree, put your front tire against it, wrap one of your hands around that top dust cap right here. But don't grip it tight, just wrap your hand around it softly. Then you can take your other hand, put it on your stem, and you can rock it into that solid source. Now, if it's loose, you're going to be able to feel it around moving here at that, that dust seal. Man, it is really hard to talk sometimes. Now, you can use your front brake, hold your front brake, and then do the same thing and kind of rock back and forth and hold and see if you can feel anything. The one thing that I'll aid or caution you is depending on what type of brake you're running, the back and forth motion can create a clunking in your brake pads inside of your caliper that can mimic your headset being loose. So just be sure that you're not rocking really hard. If you're going to use your front brake and rock, just rock softly, right? Otherwise, you've got the tree here, just push into it, you know, back and forth. If you feel anything moving there, it's loose, go back. Loosen your two stem bolts and then tighten your top cap. Never tighten your top cap if your two stem bolts are tight. I'm gonna put that in the beginning as well. Warning, warning, warning. Anyway, you can quickly check from the front too. You can kind of just rail back and forth if you hear any squeaking. That is or creaking, that is a inherent thing that you either have more dirt in there or it's loose. So that was an easy, quick-ish breakdown of how to take apart and service your headset. We've got more of these mechanical ones coming. I've got a derailleur adjustment, drivetrain, all that kind of stuff on the way. So please stay tuned. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We appreciate your support. If you'd like to help out even more, we appreciate our patrons. We appreciate all the super thanks. We shout you guys out as they go. Yeah, guys, really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one. Ride hard, ride safe, be kind to everybody. Cheers.